My name is Austin St. John. I thought I would talk about some of the crazy pets that we had while I was filming Power Rangers. I lived in a house. We had 4, sometimes 5 guys up there. I lived with Walter Jones, who was my co-star, Zach the Black Ranger, Danny, Paul, some of them stunt guys, actors, and all had like their own pet thing. I had a Rottweiler. His name was Tonka, and he was huge. He had a 16-pound bowling ball. He used to run around in the backyard and play with it, and he used to chew on cinder blocks in the backyard. That was his fun. Tonka was my boy. I love Tonka. I miss him dearly. Paul, he had a pit bull. He was old as dirt, but just the coolest guy ever. My buddy Danny, he had an African gray named Stormy, but he was beautiful. And we would sit him in the corner by our pool table. I had less than an optimal relationship with this bird. I hated this bird, and this bird hated me. I couldn't even come near the cage. His version of bird growling, and Danny was amazing when he had it. Birds, they don't have fingers, so how they feel everything is with their beaks. I didn't understand that, even though Danny told me later. I was a little bit hard-headed. Anytime you try to touch him, he'd bite you, and that pissed me off. Danny, who had a great relationship with this bird, he would lean in and, you know, kisses, and all the time he got away with it. Well, this one time, and we had people over and we're standing around the pool table. He leans in through the cage and says, "Give me a kiss." Stormy leans in real sweet and just grabbed a hold of his lip. And I saw his lips stretch like, and he's trying to be nice, but he's clearly in pain. Had it been me, I'd have been trying to kill the bird. Finally got his lip back and he was bleeding. Dude, he was just a salty one-man bird, that was for sure. Then Danny brought in another really cool pet, an albino python. I mean, this stick around. He's somewhere around 6 feet. He was a big boy. And we had to feed him mice. Because the albino python was such a rare snake and worth a ton of money, Danny wouldn't feed him live mice. So, because he's a constrictor. Squeeze you to death and then eat you head first. That's the way these things work. And it was a cool python. I used to handle him all the time and he was pretty cool. I learned a valuable lesson one time. I think Danny was away and we would take turns feeding him when Danny was away. I had gone out with the mice and Danny wanted us to take the mice and smack them on the concrete once so they were dead before we fed them to the snake, because that way it wouldn't scratch up the snake's face if the mouse was alive. So I'd gone out and I'd taken care of the mice, and I come back in and I gotta take him out of the cage. I'm gonna hold on to him and pet him a little bit. So I've taken him out of the cage, not having a common sense thought that the smell of the mice are now on my hands. Woo! Well, he gets a whiff of the mice on my hands, latches onto my hand and constricts all the way up my arm and around my neck. And I gotta tell you, the strength of this animal was incredible. I was in insane shape at the time, and there was no way physically possible, short of hurting the snake, killing it probably, to get this thing off of me by myself. It was one big bicep that big around all the way down its body, and it was squeezing the life out of my arm. I've never felt anything like it. It was unreal. I had help from one of the roomies. They came in, helped to get him off my arm. I was like, okay, probably should have washed the smell of the mice off of my hand before this thing squeezed my arm so hard my head popped off. Okay, so probably my favorite one that I had the most direct impact with. Well, let me start from the beginning of the story. So I'm on set with my buddy Walter Jones, who played Zach the Black Ranger. In this episode, which you've seen on TV, there is a scene where all the teenagers were standing in the hallway. I'm facing opposite Walter. There's a spider that out of nowhere drops in on Walter's shoulder. He freaks out, and this whole episode was kind of about Zach. That morning we come into set and the spider handler has this tarantula bigger than my hand. Big, hairy beast of a spider. It was very docile. We both held him. We're like, all right, man, that's really cool. And the spider handler saying, yeah, I fed him like 9 cockroaches this morning. He's not hungry. Oh, he never attacked anybody. I mean, if spiders attack, you'll always know because their front 2 legs will come up. And that's how they scoop their prey into their mouth so they can bite it or wrap it up and do what they do. Like, okay, that's cool, you know? So Walter was feeling comfortable. I was thrilled with this thing because it wasn't going to be on me. We're having a good time. So we get into the scene, we're shooting this set, and then all of a sudden the director calls, freeze. So wherever we are in the middle of the scene, we lock. And then you hear second action and you pick up right where you left off, but something will have changed in the scene. So to you guys, it looks like it instantly appears out of nowhere. So this was the plan. We set up, we're going through the scene, director calls freeze, the spider handler comes running in, sets it on Walter's shoulder, runs out of the scene, and director calls second action, and we're like, yeah. Whoa! Well, Walter, he was supposed to turn and look at this thing. The tarantula's on his shoulders, facing away from his head. The tarantula is totally chill. Walter turns toward it and lets out this scream like, ah! Oh, the spider didn't like that. The spider immediately turns around, faces him, and up come the 2 front legs. And now I see him register real fear, and I'm going, they said that's bad! They said that was bad! The spider handler, like a ninja, comes in live on camera, scoops up the spider, and is out the other way, live on a shot. I would love to find these outtakes. That was kind of how we met the spider. Well, Walter, being the man that he is, was like, you know what? I love this. I'm gonna check it out. And I was like, that was kind of cool. He's like, yeah, you know, okay. He goes and talks to the spider handler, asks the handler if he can keep the spider. He names the spider Homie. Homie came home with us and lived in an aquarium in our wall for years at the house. Homie the spider. We'd feed him cockroaches. It was funny how he drank water, because we'd have to take these tiny little sponges and put water in the sponge. And he would go up and bite the sponge, and that's how he got his water. This was kind of a trip. Never had so many wild, different pets in one house at one time. But that was one of my coolest, you know, you got a bunch of wild roommates, stuntmen, actors, and all of the above, and you start getting some wild and crazy pets in there. Anyway, that's my life with pets. I thought you might enjoy it.